Hello everybody, we are now on chapter 2.3, rotations. In this lesson, you will be able to rotate a figure in the coordinate plane. You'll be able to identify a rotation, and then you will also be able to find coordinates of a figure that's been rotated and use coordinates to rotate a figure. Most important thing is for you to copy down this picture right here, specifically everything inside of this box. So I'm going to make a quick box. You will need to use this for probably the rest of the chapter, so I recommend you have it written down so that you can go back to it over and over and over and over again. So this would be a good time to pause it and copy this down. If you'd like to copy down the things at the bottom as well, you may do so. They're all important, but the stuff at the bottom you really should know already. Okay. So a rotation. A rotation is a turn, just like the tires rotate on a car and you do, rotate on a bicycle and things like that. It is a rotation. It is a turn. Rotation is also a type of transformation. So it's rotated around a specific point. The point that it is rotated around is called your, oops, what did I do? Here we go. Is called, that's not what I wanted, center of rotation. So when it rotates around a specific point, like that right there, that is your center of rotation. The number of degrees a figure rotates is the angle of rotation. So we've been talking about angles last year and adding some angles in right now. So three things. Again, rotation is this thing is rotating. What it rotates around is called your center of rotation. And then how much it rotated is an angle measure. Okay, so these are three things that you do need to remember. Make sure you copy them down in your notes. Okay, now rotations are done different ways. So if we had a graph, right, we've been talking about graphs and we're rotating things. Specifically, what are the rotations they are going to be rotating? Well, you have one, which is 90 degrees. Now, if we think of a shape, remember a right angle is 90 degrees, right? So it started over here and now it's over there. From 90 degrees, it will be 180 degrees. From 180 degrees, it would be 270 degrees. And then if you come full circle again, it would be 360 degrees. But you won't see stuff like that because, that doesn't make sense. If you do 360 degrees, it's right where you started from. So you only see three of them. You'll see 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270. So 90 degrees, 180, and 270. Okay. So it goes in sections. So if this red one started here, so if this was number 1 and then this was number 2, okay, this would be considered a 90-degree rotation because it only rotated once. So I'll do this again in a graph, all right? So if we have a graph and it rotates once, that would be 90 degrees. If it rotates twice, that would be 180 degrees. If it rotates 3 times, that would be 270. And then if it got all the way back to where you started from, that would be a whole 360. Okay? So if it rotates once, 90, twice, 180, 3 times, 270. Okay? This will all make sense once we start doing the actual math about this. So looking at this rotated, right? This would be a 90-degree angle, right? And if it rotated again, a half circle would be 180 degrees. If it rotated 3/4 of a circle, that would be 370 degrees, and so forth. It just reiterates everything that I've been talking about. So now, let's take a look at this shape. It says you must rotate this puzzle 270 degrees clockwise. Well, here's the next word that we haven't seen yet, clockwise. What does that mean? Well, if we have a clock, I'm just going to draw a circle, 12, 3, 6, and 9. Normally, the clock goes this way, right? It rotates like that, and then it goes like this, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. That is called clockwise. If it goes like the clock, it is clockwise. Guess what counterclockwise is? It just goes backwards like the clock. So instead of it going this way, it actually goes that way, backwards. So it'll go 12, 9, 6, 3, and back to 12. That's counterclockwise, okay? The more we practice, the more we'll get it. So going like the clock is clockwise, going against the clock is counterclockwise, okay? So it says it has to do 270 degrees clockwise. That's 3 whole turns, right? So if we started here, that's 90 degrees. If we add another turn, that would be 180 degrees. And if we added one more turn, that would be 270 degrees, okay? So it should be somewhere like that. All right, let's see what it says. It says you must rotate this puzzle piece 270 degrees about point P. Well, here's point P. We're talking about that question right there to fit in the puzzle. Which piece fits in the puzzle as shown? So if this was our original shape, all right, and we have to go like the clock, which is that way. So if it went 90 degrees, my new shape would be like this. So it rotated once, okay? So this would be at point 180 degrees. Now if we rotated it one more time, so this would be, sorry, let's rotate. So this is the first move, okay? Now if we did it another time, it would look like this. This would be the second time. So sorry, 90, this would be the 180. And then if we did it one more time, it would look, so this piece, right, we're rotating this piece here, these pieces here. So that would be once, twice, and then the next time it should probably be something like that. So let's take a look. So notice where this point is, where this point is, and this point is. So I'll try to label these. So we'll go A, B, and C. So what do you think? Looking at this shape and looking at what we're looking at, which one would be 270 degree rotation? Let's look at the example. So if it started off like this, right? This was our original right here. It started off like this. It rotated once, it rotated twice, and then it rotated that third time to 270. Where would that white space be, right? Be one time, two times, and that would be right there at the bottom. So it should look like this piece right there, which would be letter C. Now this is a little bit more confusing. We're not going to do a lot of these, but you will see some kinds of question like this, and you just have to kind of play around with the looking at the shapes and see how they're trying to trick you to get this answer. But let's take a look. Tell whether the blue figure is a rotation of the red figure, and if so, give the angle and direction of the rotation. So if the blue figure is a rotation, so I would say this one is a rotation. I would call this a 180 degree rotation. Why? Because it's the complete opposite. Again, once we do the actual math about it, it's going to make sense. So anything that would be 180 degrees is literally equal to the opposite of whatever it is. Okay, so for example, what is the opposite or 180 degree rotation of that letter A? 180 degrees is the complete opposite. That means the A should be upside down like that. Okay, that's 180 degree. Or what we've been doing with reflections, right? That would be a reflection across the y equals negative x. Good thing we know how to do this. All right, let's take a look. Is this one a rotation? No, it is not. It could be, but it is not a rotation because the rotations would be should be exactly the same unless there was a translation. So it should have been right there, but it wasn't. Okay, so number 2 is not a rotation, but number 1 was a rotation. Now let's get into the good stuff and learn how to actually do these rotations. So now that we are learning how to do rotations, again, please make sure you have these formulas out for you so you can have them ready and available for you guys to use. So our first question is right here. We're going to just jump straight in. So this would be considered example number 2. The vertices of a trapezoid, remember it's a shape, are W is negative 4, 2, X is negative 3, 4, Y equals negative 1, 4, and Z equals negative 1, 2. Rotate the trapezoid 180 degrees, okay, about the origin. Now, if we look at our formula sheet right here, well, let's see, what are we looking at? It says we need to look at 180 degrees. Now, the cool thing about this is that 180 degrees doesn't matter if you're going counterclockwise or clockwise. It's always going to be exactly the same, the exact same formula, okay? So what is the formula for 180 degrees? Well, it's right there. Negative x and negative y, okay? So you guys should be writing this down as well. Here are those coordinates, okay? So first thing I want to do, I still want to label my original shapes, x and y, x and y, x and y, x and y. All right, now what was the formula again? It was negative x, negative y. All right, so here we go. Now remember, what we want to do is we want to put our formula, negative x, negative y, negative x, negative y, negative x, negative y, and then negative x and negative y. Now when we put our parentheses, remember we put the sign on the outside like this. Go, and then the last one right here. All right, last step. Now we just need to plug in our numbers. So what numbers go in here? Well, negative 4 and 2. And if you notice, what do we have here? We have a double negative, which is going to make that positive. So that would be positive 4 and the negative 2. Here we go. Let's plug in our other ones. We have negative 3 and 4. That would make that, remember, a double negative right there. So that's positive 3 and negative 4. We have negative 1 and 4. That's a double negative again. So that's positive 1 and negative 4. Then our last one is negative 1 and 2, which will make that, again, double negative, which is 1 and negative 2. All we need to do now is plot our points, and we will be free to answer this question. So here is the shape, the original shape. Let's see if I can delete some stuff here so you guys can see. So did we get the exact same answers they did? 4, negative 2. Yep. 4, negative 2. 3, negative 4. 1, negative 4. And 1, negative 2. And then we just plot our points. And this is what a 180-degree turn will look like. Okay? Again, you are responsible for actually drawing this out. This is the only way you will know how to answer these questions. All right. So we're going to answer questions 3, 4, and 5. I already took the liberty to show my work on the other page, so let's do that right now. Here we go. I'm going to need that formula sheet just so that we have it. I'll make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to put it right there. All right, so these are the points. Make sure you copy them down. First thing I really want to do is plot my original points. So I have negative 4, negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Here's my point J. I have negative 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's my point K. And then I have my L, negative 1, 0, which is right there. I have my M, which is negative 2, negative 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, looks like it's some kind of trapezoid. All right, now let's just connect my points. There we go. All right. So what is the rule? It says we want to do 180 degrees about the origin. So what is the formula for the origin? It's just negative, let's make that smaller, negative x, negative y. So let's do that right here. I'm just going to do it underneath my points here. Let's first label. Here's my x, there's my y, x, y, x, y, x, and y. All right, so the formula for 180 degrees is negative x and negative y. So let me label that. Negative x, negative y, negative x, negative y, negative y, negative x, negative y. Now, the one thing I will tell you right now, until you get used to this, 180 degrees is literally the opposite. Okay, so if you have 3 and 4, the opposite of 3 and 4 would be negative 3 and negative 4. Okay, that's an example. Here's another example. If you had, say, the original point was negative 1 and 2, what is the opposite of negative 1 and 2? That would be 1 and negative 2. That is the opposite. So 180 is usually the easiest one to solve because it's just the opposite. So just looking at these ones, I'll already tell you what my answers are going to be. It's going to be positive 4, positive 4, positive 4 and 2, 1 and 0, and then 2 and 3. But let's show all of our work and make sure we are doing this correctly. All right. So remember, how do we do our work? What we do is we put parentheses, negative sign on the outside. last step, remember we put our sign on the outside. Now we just need to plug in our numbers. Let's do that right now in the color blue. -4, -4. What do you notice? Double negatives. That's gonna make that positive, so 4 and 4. Was I correct at the top? Yes, I was. All right, let's try another one. Put in -4 and -2. Double negatives, so you now have 4 and 2. Oops, that was bad, 2. 4 and 2. Was I correct at the top? Yes, I was. All right, let's do another one. We have -1 and 0, right? Double negative, so that's +1 and 0. Was I right at the top? Yes, I was. All right, last one. We have -2 and -3. That's again double negative, makes that +2 and +3. Those are our coordinates. And I was right at the top, right? So now let's take a look. Where exactly would this shape be if it was its opposite? Well, the opposite of that is somewhere around here, right? So that's what the shape or the opposite of that should be like. So I'm actually going to have to erase some of this so I don't have to draw on top of it so you guys can see it all. Make sure when you're doing your work for this, you leave yourself enough space. So let's plot our answers. We know it's 4 and 4. I'm going to do this in red. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our J prime. Okay, so now we have K prime, which would be 4 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is now my K prime. I now have negative. Now I have +1 and 0. This would be my L prime. And my last one is 2 and 3. So 2 and 1, 2, 3. This is my M prime. So now I just got to connect my shape. And there we go. We have the exact opposite of this shape. That's what that's supposed to look like. All right, let's try another one. Oops. Let's move this down here so we can do another one. Oops. All right. All right, so here is question number 4. Let's make sure we have our formula. And this one says it is 90 degrees CC. Well, what does CC stand for? It stands for counterclockwise. That means we're going against the clock, so backwards. Normally the clock goes that way, right? So it goes like this. But this time we're going backwards like the clock, so counterclockwise. All right, first things first, let's find our formula for counterclockwise. Well, here it is. Here's CC, counterclockwise, 90 degrees. What is our formula for 90 degrees counterclockwise? That is negative y and x. All right, so now we labeled our points x and y, x and y, x and y. All we need to do now is let's plug in our formula. So remember, it was negative y and x. Let's just double check that, right? It was negative y and x, yep. So negative y and x. Y and x. Well, first I forgot to plot my points. Let's plot my points. I have -3 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and 2. So that is point P. Q is 6 and 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1. Here's my letter Q. And then my last one is -1 and -5. So we got -1, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. That's my letter R. Let's connect our shape so we know what we are talking about. Oops. Will it fix it? Yes, it did. It fixed it. Nice. Okay. Now that we got that, let's do our parentheses, right? So what are the steps? Label, plot your points, write the formula, and my last step is parentheses. Okay, so let's do parentheses. Remember, signs on the outside, parentheses. Signs on the outside, parentheses. Signs on the outside, parentheses. All right, we only got 3 points. So now let's just plug in our numbers. Notice what it says, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my x. Here is my x. So what goes in the x spot is that -3. And what goes in the y spot, here's my y. What goes in the y spot is 2. So here we go. We have -2 and -3. Again, here's my x and x. 6 goes there and 1 goes with the y, right? So 6, and then we have 1. So we have -1 and 6. And last one, let's just plug it in. Here is my y. So notice what we got. We got that double negative right there. We have that -1. So double negative makes that positive. So 5 and -1. So now we just need to plot this down. Let's do our shape. So -2 and -3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Here is my letter P. That's going to be P prime. Now I have Q, which is -1 and 6. So -1 is right there, and then 6. Let's count up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa. Runner. So that's my Q prime. Okay. And then my last one is 5 and -1, which is my R. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and -1. That's my R prime. Now we just need to connect our shape. And there we go. We have our new shape. That is a 90-degree turn, counterclockwise. Notice, Q was here, 90 degrees. Gets, oops, still have the shape on. It gets it right there. A quick turn. Also notice, what does this make over here, ladies and gentlemen? This makes a 90-degree angle. Isn't that cool? All right, let's move on. Number 5, last one. Here are our points, and it says 90 degrees around the origin. So let's see, what are the rules for 90 degrees about the origin? So clockwise. All right, so it's clockwise and then 90 degrees. So this one is y and -x. Y and -x. So I'm just going to label that over here. Y and -x. Let's move this really quick up there. All right. So now that we have our formula, let's just label some things really quick. Let's plot our points, 5 and 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have, 5 and 3. So 5 and 1, 2, 3. That's my letter A. Then we have B, which is 4, -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. It's my letter B. And then C is 1, -1. Right there. So that's C. Looks like we have a triangle. There we go. Let's make that better. That's better. Okay, cool. Now that we have that, let's label some things really quick. We are doing 90 degrees around the origin, so I'm just going to label some things, X and Y, X and Y, X and Y. My formula for doing these is Y -x, so Y -x, Y -x. Remember, we do parentheses, sign on the outside, parentheses, sign on the outside, parentheses, sign on the outside. Now we just got to plug in where things go. So we have our Y, and that goes there, right? So we have 3 and 5, which makes that 3 and -5, right? Because there's that negative. And then we have, here's my Y again, and Y. I have -1 and 4, so -1. And how's that -4? Well, that's right there, so -4. And then my last one, again, my Y is -1. There's my Y. So I put -1 in there. I put 1 in there. And now, what do we have? We have -1 and -1, like that. All right, so now we just got to plot our points. So I have 3 and -5. So 1, 2, 3, -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we're pretty close to the bottom. That's going to be point A prime. Okay, now my B prime is -1, -4. So -1, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my B prime. My C prime is -1, 1. So -1, -1. And there is my C prime. Now let's just connect our dots. Boom, boom. Let's see if it does it. Boom. And it did it. So there we go. We have a 90-degree turn. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do rotation.